All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the information session for the National Diabetes Prevention Program. My name is Ryan Smith. I'm the Wellness Program Administrator here, and I'm joined by Cheryl Johnson-Ransaw, the Director of Employee Development and Wellness Services. Throughout today's presentation, just wanted to give a couple quick heads up. We are going to be recording this, so if you want to share with a colleague who you think might be interested in this information, that recording will be made available. And also, we're going to be monitoring the chat. So if you've got any questions about anything we're going over today, please make use of that chat box feature, and we'll be keeping an eye on that to answer those questions. With all that being said, we will go ahead and get started. So today, we're going to discuss a couple key things. First, we're going to do a little bit of an overview of the background on the diabetes epidemic and the Diabetes Prevention Program study. You're going to see the text DPP throughout this presentation, and that is just the abbreviation for Diabetes Prevention Program. We're going to talk about the goals of the Diabetes Prevention Program, the structure of the program. We're going to talk a little bit about expectations for people who participate in the program. And then finally, that most important information, we'll talk about eligibility, assessment, and enrollment, so how you could apply to the program to get in. So we're going to kick things off with just a really short video. It gives a nice overview, like a little advertisement of what the program entails. So we're going to play that real quick, and then we'll dive into the rest of the presentation.
Imagine yourself 1 year from now. You've tackled your prediabetes. You're eating well, staying active, and reducing stress. You've even made new friends, all because you took charge of your health and lowered your risk for type 2 diabetes. It's possible when you join CDC's National Diabetes Prevention Program. Coaches help you with real-life solutions. This could be you. It can all start today. Find an online or in-person program. Visit cdc.gov/prevent-type-2.
Okay, so now we're going to do just a quick little icebreaker we like to do. And this is an activity we're going to do as a group, so you can use the chat box feature to participate in this. And we're going to talk a little bit about fad diets. So whenever we think of a fad diet, that's something that maybe it's been popular, could be popular for a couple years, could be new, it just came out. But we want to see how many diets can you name. So maybe you've seen about them in a Facebook group or in a magazine or on TV, or a friend told you about it, anything like that. We're going to take a couple minutes here and see how many people can come up with. So feel free to use the chat. You can send the message just to the panelists if you only want us to see it, or if you'd like everyone in the meeting to see it, you can send the message to everyone. But we'll start the timer now, so use that chat, and let's just see how many diets you can name, anything you've ever heard of before. All right, let's give it about 30 more seconds. We've had a couple come through to the panelists here that I can see. Take a little bit longer. Think of any other diets you've come across, and we'll add those to our list. Okay, so if you've got any last ideas, you can finish typing them, but we've got quite the list here. And I'm going to read some of these off. Some of them I think were public, but it looks like some of these were sent just to the panelists. So we've got Atkins, Paleo, Whole30, Keto, Another Keto, No Carb, South Beach, Dash Diet. WW is so Weight Watchers Diet. Yeah, so I'm sure you all have heard of these. We've actually got an image on the screen that covered some of those, but some other ones are like the detox diet. We see the Dukan diet, paleo vegetarian diet, the rainbow diet. And we're not saying anything good or bad about these diets. These are just diets that are in popular media that we've seen, that have popped up. And most people who have done the diabetes prevention program before have probably encountered these diets. Maybe they've tried them, maybe they've read about them or watched a video on them, but there's a lot of information out there about these diets. And we want to make the point that this program is not a diet. It's not a diet book or a diet plan. It is a lifestyle change program. So these diets will focus on, only eat these foods, always avoid these foods. That's not what this program is. This program is trying to tackle food, physical activity, the social aspects of it, managing stress. There's a lot more than just focusing on the diet. And that's just an important message we like to say, is that this is not a diet program. It's a lifestyle change program, something to help you make a healthy change that you can actually stick with for the rest of your life. Not a 30-day quick fix, but a lifestyle change. So thank you to everyone for participating in that. We like to do that as just sort of an icebreaker, see what people have heard of or come across before. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the state of diabetes and prediabetes in the United States. So 88 million Americans have prediabetes, which is about 1 in 3 people. So if you're in an office meeting, or maybe you're at a restaurant getting food, or you're just in a public place and there's a large group of people around, about 1 in 3 of those people have prediabetes. So about a third of the population, and 8 in 10 people with prediabetes don't even realize that they have it. They haven't been told by a doctor, or it hasn't been, registered yet that those levels are at a high risk. And this is important because if we look at the bottom right of this image here, prediabetes increases your risk of progressing to type 2 diabetes, your risk of heart disease, and your risk of stroke. And these are all major health issues in the United States. And if you're hearing this word prediabetes, but you're kind of a little unfamiliar with it, at the bottom left of this picture, you can see that it's sort of this state in between healthy levels and in between having type 2 diabetes. So you're in this kind of borderline zone, or some people will say borderline diabetic. And this is an opportunity for people to make changes to their health, to get back down to those healthy levels, to get things where we want them to be. Because diabetes is a big problem in the United States. We can see here 34 million adults, about 10% of the population have diabetes, and 1 in 5 people with diabetes don't realize that they have it. Now this slide looks like a lot of information at first, but all it's showing, if we look at the top row here, first it's showing us obesity rates. So in 1994, we can see kind of what the United States looked like. The darker the orange or red color is, the higher the rate of obesity in that state. So we can see what things looked like. And between 1994 and 2015, over the course of 20 years, things really progressed. Obesity rates climbed a lot. And at this point, we are almost 10 years past this, and those obesity rates have continued to climb. Now, why this is important in a diabetes prevention program is if we look down here at this diabetes trend, you'll notice that as obesity increases, diabetes increases as well. And it's very similar, what areas are afflicted by this. Now, we're down here in the southeast in Georgia, and unfortunately, we are in one of those states with a very high prevalence of obesity and diabetes. So in Georgia, 1 out of every 10 Georgians have diabetes, and it is one of the leading causes of death in Georgia because it does lead to those complications we talked about, like an increased risk of heart disease and stroke. So we've talked a little bit about, the background, but what we're going to do now is a risk test. And this is written by the CDC. It's going to help us see what kind of risk you're at. Now, this is private. This is just for you. So you don't share this in the chat. This is just for you to see and to know where you're at as far as risk goes. All you're going to need to do it is a pen or pencil, something you can write down stuff with, and then a little piece of paper. It could be a sticky note. It could be a piece of scratch paper or printer paper. Or if you're on your computer, you could open up like a Word document and just write things there. But again, we're not going to ask you to share your answers or scores. These are just for you to keep. So I'll give everyone a couple more seconds to try to grab something to write down things with, or open up a file that if you want to type it instead on your computer to keep track of it. And what we'll do is we'll progress through a series of questions, and you're going to write down numbers based on how you answer that question. So our first question is, how old are you? And based on how you answer this, you're going to get points. So you'll just tally those points up as we go through these questions. So if you're younger than 40 years, you get 0 points. If you're 40 to 49, you have 1 point. 50 to 59, 2 points. And 60 years or older will get you 3 points. So take a couple seconds to find your age range and write down how many points you got for this one. The next question is, are you a man or a woman? If you answer man, that's 1 point. And if you answer woman, that's 0 points. Okay. The next risk question is, have you ever been diagnosed with gestational diabetes? Now, if you're unfamiliar with that, that's a type of diabetes that you can get during pregnancy. So if you have had gestational diabetes before, a healthcare provider has told you that, then you'll answer yes and get 1 point for this question. If you have not, you'll answer no, and you'll get 0 points for this question. Okay, the next question is about family history. So it's, do you have a mother, father, brother, or sister with diabetes? So immediate family only, mother, father, brother, or sister with diabetes. If you answer yes to that question, you'll get 1 point. And if you answer no, you'll get 0 points. The next question is, have you ever been diagnosed with high blood pressure? So if a healthcare provider has told you you have high blood pressure, you'll answer yes, and you'll have 1 point for this question. If not, you'll answer no, and you'll have 0 points for this question. All right. And then the next question is, are you physically active? And what we mean by this is, are you regularly getting in physical activity? That could be working out, could be going for walks, swimming, anything that has you moving around, but on a regular basis. So if you're someone who maybe every once in a while you go for a nice walk or you do something, active, but it's not really part of your regular routine, then we won't consider that physically active. But if you've got a routine, or just throughout your week, you're usually moving around fairly often, could be from things you do at work, or again, from just exercise you try to intentionally get in. So if you're physically active and you answer yes, you'll get 0 points. If you're not physically active right now, not getting much regular exercise, and you answer no, you'll get 1 point. Okay, and then this last question, we got to use this little chart over to the side here. And it's going to ask you what your weight category is. So if you look at this chart, it's got height and weight on it, and you should be able to see the different ranges. So it goes from 4'10" to 6'4", and then different weight ranges on the side. And what you'll do is you'll find your height, you'll find the weight range you fall in, and then you'll go down to the bottom of the chart to see how many points you get. So let's do an example real quick. Let's say you are 5'5" and you weigh 210 pounds. So I would go to the 5'5" height. I'd look at the first column, 150 to 179. Okay, if I'm 210, I don't fall into that one. So I move to the next column, 180 to 239. So 210 falls in there. So that's where my weight category is. And then I go down to the bottom of the chart and see that that's worth 2 points. So I'd write down 2 points for that question. Now, if you weigh less than the weight listed in the 1 point category, then you get 0 points. And if you weigh more than the weight listed in the 3 point category, you just give yourself 3 points. So at that point, like if you're, let's say you're 5'9" and you weigh, let's say 290 pounds, you're at the 270 plus category. So you just give yourself 3 points for that. So we'll pause on this question for a little bit. Sometimes it takes people a bit longer to kind of navigate that chart. Definitely ask questions in the chat if you're confused about any of that. And then we will talk about what to do with all the points that we've counted up. Okay, so again, we're not going to ask anyone to share your answers or score right now, but add up those points that we just wrote down. So for all the questions that we did, add up what numbers you got. You can do it by hand or in your head if you're good with mental math, or if you want to pull out a calculator on your phone, I encourage people to do that. And we'll get your total risk score. So once you've got your total score, we're going to talk about what that means. So a score on the left hand here, this is just the risk test. That was all the questions we just did kind of put together. So a score of 5 or higher indicates an increased risk for prediabetes and a high risk for diabetes. So if you scored 5 or higher, you are at an increased risk. Without intervention, so without a lifestyle change program, something to make a change in your life, 5 to 10% of people with prediabetes will transition to type 2 diabetes every year. So every year without change, that risk of moving into type 2 diabetes territory increases. So if you're at an elevated risk, it's really important that you take action for your health. So we've talked a lot about some of the negatives. We've talked about the scary things, but now we can talk about the good stuff. We can talk about why this program exists and what we can do to help people out. So this is a recommendation from the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, on what to do for people with that increased risk. So their grade A recommendation, this is from the American Diabetes Association as well. The grade A recommendation, the highest one they have, is patients with prediabetes should be referred to an evidence-based intensive behavioral lifestyle intervention program modeled on the diabetes prevention program so that they can achieve and maintain a 7% loss of body weight and increase their physical activity to at least 150 minutes per week. So that's like the gold standard of what people should do. It's recommended they get into a diabetes prevention program. So how this program started was the CDC did a really big study. They had about 3,000 participants. All of them were overweight, and all of them had prediabetes. And they split them into 3 different groups. One group was the drug or medicine group, which metformin is a drug that helps with prediabetes. There's the lifestyle intervention group, which was the group where they didn't take any drugs. They just focused on making changes to their diet, to their exercise, things like that. And then they had a placebo group, which was a group that didn't actually do anything. They didn't give them medicine. They didn't give them a program. They were just there to see, well, what happens when people don't make any change at all? And they followed these participants for 3 years. And these are the results, and they're really interesting. So first on the left side here, we have the medication group, which was the people taking metformin, that medicine. And the good news is metformin works, right? The medicine does what it's supposed to do. People who were taking the medicine had a 31% less risk of diabetes. So they had a lowered risk by 31% because they were taking the drug. That's great news. But what's incredible is that the people in the lifestyle change group who did the diabetes prevention program actually had a 58% lower risk of diabetes. So even more powerful than taking the medicine, making those lifestyle changes helped reduce people's risk significantly. Now, something to note here, though, is that you don't have to do just one or the other. We've had people in our diabetes prevention program who their doctors already have them taking metformin, and combining these two can lower your risk even more. But the big takeaway here is that making that lifestyle change is the most helpful thing we can do for our health, which is why it's that grade A recommendation from the American Diabetes Association. So here are the overall, just kind of the recap. Weight loss was the most important factor in lowering the risk for type 2 diabetes. That had the greatest effect. And then some good news is the effect of weight loss on the risk for type 2 diabetes was the same across the board. So regardless of sex, regardless of socioeconomic status, how much money people make, what kind of job they work, their race, their ethnicity, all of that stuff aside, losing weight helped people reduce their risk of type 2 diabetes. So what does this program entail? How does this program make that happen? So like we said at the beginning, it's a lifestyle change program. It's not a diet. So participants attend the program for 1 full year. And I want to emphasize that because that's a long time. This will be the 5th diabetes prevention program we've done. And at first, 1 year, it's a big commitment to sign up for, but it makes a difference. And the people who can commit for that 1 year can get real results and see changes because it's not a quick fix. It's not a 30-day, reset or anything like that. It's a full year of working together to become healthier. So in the first 6 months of the program, there'll be about 16 sessions, and they'll be once a week for 1 hour. So 1 hour a week for the first 6 months is the commitment. And then in the second 6 months, you'll have about 6 sessions. Sometimes you'll do a couple extra, depending on what people want, but usually you'll go to about 1 session a month. So first half of the program, every week you meet for an hour. Second half of the program, you'll meet 1 to 2 times a month, depending on the schedule. It's led by trained lifestyle coaches who have undergone a CDC lifestyle coach training to be able to give this program and present it to you. It follows a curriculum designed by researchers at CDC that's been tested and proven to work. And the goals are to lose 5 to 7% of your body weight and increase your activity to 150 minutes per week. Now, if you join the program, we'll actually talk about what 5 to 7% of your body weight looks like. We'll give you, the exact number, let you set some specific goals. But just as an example of what that means, if you weigh, let's say 200 pounds, losing 5% is about 10 pounds. So people have all sorts of different weight goals, all sorts of different things in their mind. But the point that we want to emphasize is you do not have to lose 40 pounds to have major positive health effects. Losing just 10 pounds and getting more active and eating healthier, that's enough to make a huge difference and lower your risk. So a big summary again, how this program works. It helps people lose weight through healthy eating. It encourages them to be more physically active, and it helps them learn to identify barriers and those road bumps we run into. Whenever we're trying to eat healthier and be more active, life happens. A lot of stuff can get in the way. And this program's not just about telling you how to eat healthy food or how to be more active. It's also about social support. When we've had this program before, our last 4 sessions, one of the biggest things we hear from people is that meeting up with the same group of people who are working on being healthier together with you, that's almost more important than those other aspects. That really motivates people to keep going, to do it together. So these are some examples of the topics that we'll talk about in the program. During the first 6 months, we cover things like healthy eating, reading nutrition labels, ways to get more physically active and have fun while doing it. We talk about calorie monitoring, managing stress, staying motivated when things get difficult, tips for eating out, going to restaurants. And then in the second 6 months of the program, we do slightly more advanced things. We'll talk about how to modify a recipe to make it healthier. We'll talk about ways to increase physical activity even more. We'll discuss maintaining positive thoughts, how to prevent a relapse or like a backslide if you're making progress and things start to slip a little bit. We'll go over how to prep for a vacation and holidays and how to enjoy those while still staying healthy. And we'll discuss heart health and type 2 diabetes education. So there's more sessions than this, but this is kind of a quick sampler of some of the topics we talk about. And now let's talk about eligibility. So the eligibility for this program is Georgia State University faculty or staff. And I'm actually happy to announce that if you are at another institution, like let's say you found this program and you're at a USG institution, maybe another college or university, you can still apply if you're a faculty or staff at that university. So if you're on this and you're not currently at Georgia State University, but you work at another USG institution, definitely go ahead and apply. We've had people from all sorts of different institutions join us before and had a great time with the program, so we're happy to take you as well. So faculty or staff at a USG institution, you must be 18 or older. You must be overweight or obese, which means you have a body mass index of 25 or higher. And if you're not sure about your BMI, you can look up a BMI calculator online. You'll just put in your height and weight, that's all it needs, and it'll give you the number for that. You need to have either been diagnosed with prediabetes in the past or be at a high risk of prediabetes. So when we took that risk assessment test earlier in this presentation, if you scored a 5 or higher on that, that qualifies you for the diabetes prevention program. And then finally, if you've been previously diagnosed with gestational diabetes, that will also qualify you. So for that bullet, you only need to meet one of those. So either you've been diagnosed with prediabetes, you were previously diagnosed with gestational diabetes, or you took that risk test and got a score of 5 or higher. Any of those 3 will qualify you. And then finally, this part's extra important, of course, it's that you're willing to participate in a year-long program to improve your health. A year is a big commitment, but what you get out of the program will be worth it. It's 12 months of support, of working towards improving your health so that you can have just a healthier, more enjoyable life. And then we've got some participant expectations. I don't think it's anything too tough. We've been doing this for 4 years now, and everyone seems to do a really good job with it, but we like to just tell people what they might expect from the program. So first, we expect people are going to be active, that you're going to try to get in more activity. And when we say that, people start from all sorts of different places. Some people join the program and they've already been doing exercise. They've been trying to improve on that, and that's awesome. We encourage them to keep going, maybe push a little further if they can, but we just want them to maintain that great level of activity. But maybe you have no activity right now. You're sedentary and you just haven't really been exercising. That's okay too. We'll start you small and slowly build up and encourage you to add a little more exercise at a time. But we are looking for people who are willing to put in that work and be active and enjoy that. We're also going to ask people to pay more attention to what they eat. We encourage people to keep a food log or a food journal and note some of the foods that they're eating, good or bad. We're just looking for people to be more mindful and aware because that awareness really helps. This program does include those weekly weigh-ins. So part of the program is we collect anonymous data. So your name's never attached to it, but we do ask to see those weekly weigh-ins because we want to see how people are progressing, how they're doing, how we can help them continue to find success. The program is confidential. So again, your name's not attached to any information like that. It is reported to the CDC anonymously. So they'll get information on weight and things like that, but not any names or personal information. And also, what happens in the group stays in the group. It's not meant to be a we go and talk to other coworkers about this sort of thing. It's a private circle of trust where people are working together to improve their health. And then finally, I like this quote here. Remember, there's a positive relationship between the number of sessions attended and success in meeting goals. So all that means is the study has shown that the more people participate, the more they put into the program, the more they get out of it, the more successful that they are. So let's talk about next steps. This slide says you can email CJ Ransaw at gsu.edu to request the prediabetes risk assessment test and the program application to see if you qualify. Now we have this up here, and that's going to be true for the recording of this. So if you share this recording with anyone, or maybe you're watching this later, you can email cjransaw@gsu.edu, and you'll be able to get that risk assessment test. But if you're on the call right now, don't worry about emailing. We're going to send out an application to everyone who attended this today automatically so that you can fill out the application to see if you qualify. So we're currently in the stage of accepting applications. There's not a firm start date just yet for the program, but we're taking those applications. So we encourage people to get them in early and see if you qualify for the program so that when we do start it up, you'll be one of the first to hear back from us. So again, if you're on the call, we're going to send you a copy of that application so you can fill it out and then email it to cjransaw@gsu.edu. So that is the end of the presentation for today. I know we had a couple of folks who looked like they hopped on a little bit later in the presentation, and that's A-okay. A copy of this recording is going to be made available, and we'll send it out to everyone. So if you missed something at the beginning, you'll be able to check that recording out and see. But I do want to pause here and ask if anyone has any questions. You can use the chat box feature, and we'll be sure to address those. Okay, I see a question here. This is a great question. Will the sessions be in person or virtual? So we have done this program in person before, and we've also done it virtually before. The answer to that question will largely depend on the number of applicants we get and where the applicants are. So we're aware we've got some excellent folks at our perimeter institutions that have been included in the program before because we were able to do a virtual group, and they got a lot out of that. And we also know we've got some people on the Atlanta campus or maybe in the nearby campuses who really value the in-person option as well. So we're going to base that based on the applications we get. It may be possible that we can do both groups, or it may just be one group depending on the applications and where people are. So we don't have a firm answer on that right now, but when you submit your application, there'll be a question on there that will ask about if you have a preference for virtual or in person, and you can answer that, and that'll help guide the decision on that. So great question. Right, and I do not see any other questions at this time. So thank you everyone for attending today and checking out the info session. Oh, another question just came through. So this is a question, um, if the program's only for students or if people related to students can attend the sessions. So this program, we actually, let me jump back real quick. We have an eligibility slide. This program is just for faculty and staff at either Georgia State University, or if you're at another USG institution, like let's say Georgia Tech or UGA, then you'd be able to attend as well. It's not open to students, unfortunately, so just faculty and staff are eligible for this program. However, if you're interested in the program and you're a student, or maybe you have a family member who might be interested in programs like this, the diabetes prevention program is offered by other organizations as well. If you look it up online, there's actually a program finder where you can locate other options, other people offering the program that might be open to the public. So I hope that's helpful. This one is paid for by the university, basically. So we have funding to do it for university faculty and staff. All right, so I don't see any other questions, so we'll wrap things up. Again, thank you everyone for attending today. Keep an eye on your email. We're going to send those follow-up materials, give you a copy of the application, and then we'll be sure to share the recording too. So if you want to pass it along to a coworker who maybe had to miss the session today, we'll have that information available for you. So I hope everyone has a great rest of their day and a nice week, and we hope to hear from you soon. Thank you so much. Take care.